Vito Buonsante is the Plastics Program Manager at Environmental Defence. He also teaches environmental health policy at McMaster University, and he joins me now. Professor Buonsante, thanks for taking time to speak with me today. Appreciate it.
Thank you. My pleasure.
What is the significance of this announcement from the Prime Minister to ban single-use plastics as early as 2021?
Well, I think it's quite significant, and it also speaks to the urgency of the issue and to the fact that Canadians are really on board on this. Canadians are worried about the amount of plastic waste that we keep on generating, and Canadians are also worried about the fact that we don't manage to recycle enough of that plastic.
Okay, the government isn't being specific on which products will be banned. It says it wants to consult the scientific evidence to identify the most harmful single-use plastic products. But maybe you can help us with that list. Which products should they be targeting? What are we talking about here?
Well, there are various levels because, we have what is harmful for wildlife, and that's, I guess, it's pretty straightforward. Any piece of plastic that we see recurrently on our coastlines, on our beaches, in our parks, that get potentially ingested by any sorts of animals, especially birds. They can be considered a risk and therefore banned. And this is what the European Union did. It was a pretty straightforward process. Yes, there was science involved in seeing which one of these plastic substances get and how do they get to the oceans. But it was pretty much taking the top 10 littered items found on cleanups and pretty much banning them, especially if they had readily available substitutes.
Well, I guess that's what I'm not sure that Canadians appreciate or have given, and they're giving more thought to it, obviously, but just how prevalent single-use plastics are in our everyday life, whether it's packaging food products, whether it's the straw in your drink, whether it's the plastic knife and fork you use at the fast food restaurant. Tell me about that. I mean, do Canadians have a real sense of how this stuff is everywhere?
Well, I think Canadians do value the importance of recycling first, and I think they're starting to open up their eyes to the fact that a lot of the plastic is throwaway plastic. When you're told that the plastic that you use even for a few minutes or just to store your food for a while is going to be recycled, you may have a better attitude to it. You say, well, okay, I'm going to use this for very little time, but then it's going to be recycled. Then when you find out that the majority of it is not actually recycled, you start to ask yourself, do we really need to use this product that is going to last into the environment for hundreds of years only for a few minutes? And I think there's a general acceptability of the fact that there's a need to start off to solve the plastic pollution problems through bans.
The Prime Minister has also announced that the companies that make these products will be responsible for collecting and recycling the harmful materials that go to waste instead of having municipalities do it, which is largely the case now. How important is that piece of this plan?
In a way, that is possibly the most important piece. If you think about the way the market has worked so far, we have given a free check to the plastic industry and to companies that sell consumer products to produce whatever they want and to package however they want, because they're not paying the bill for cleaning up. And who's paying that bill? Well, it's taxpayer money. Only in Ontario in 2017, the taxpayer had to cover $250 million to manage the Blue Box program, which is waste coming from plastic mainly, and also think about all the money that our municipality spends for litter. It's it's estimated that only the city of Toronto spends $25 million a year to clean up like all the litter, and a lot of it, most of it, I think over 80% is estimated to be plastics and single-use plastics.
Okay, let's elaborate on that a bit, because you touched on it. Even though a lot of Canadians are doing their part to recycle and they use the blue plastic, the bins for plastics, how effective is plastics recycling in this country right now? Is it working?
Well, it works for those materials that are that can be recycled and that are easy to recycle. The cost of making new plastics is so low that in order to make recycling something economically viable, there needs to be like a strong economic incentive. So when you have like those plastics, those products made of multi-layered plastic, like a lot of mixed materials, in many cases, though, they need to be mechanically sorted, and that means work. So when it's not easy to sort and collect, it's just easier to buy new plastics, and that's the reason why recycling struggles.
The plastics industry employs a lot of people, 100,000 Canadians. It's a $25 billion a year industry. How many of those jobs could be lost because of this kind of a ban?
I don't think that many. Plastics have many more uses than being made to be thrown away. And so we will continue to use more and more plastics. It's a light, durable material, can be molded very easily. It's used very much in the automotive industry. It's used more and more into the building industry. There's so many durable products that are made of plastic, and it makes sense. Plastic is a durable material. It should be used for durable products. On the other hand, there's an opportunity to create new markets with recycling. We will still need to use plastics, and it would be best if we recuperate those plastics, we recover those plastics, and we recycle them. And right now, the recycling market struggles because there's no obligation to reuse that plastic. So if we had standards that said every new plastic needs to have like a certain percentage of recycled content, then that recycling sector would have some certainty and would be able to thrive.
Let's finish on this. Of course, the Prime Minister has announced that, and it's 2 years off, of course, so that's predicated on I guess the presumption that his party and he will still be the leader, and that they'll be able to push this policy through. But it is an election year, as you know, and Andrew Scheer, the opposition leader, says he prefers a system of incentives to create change instead of having to ban these single-use plastic products. What's your response to that approach? Has there been any indication that industry was moving this way on its own?
Well, it's unlikely that industry moves like on its own totally, but we've seen already like massive companies like Nestlé, an unlikely champion of getting rid of like problematic plastic. Like they announced already several months ago that they, as of 2019, will stop using those plastics that are not or usually not recycled. Walmart has announced like its strategy to reduce single-use plastic, and which includes like banning or blacklisting certain plastics. So the bans are kind of important. But I agree that incentives are important, and I think what the Prime Minister announced, like making companies accountable, is a way to create incentive in the market to design products differently, and to ensure that like those products are easier to recycle and are not made of plastics that are effectively not recycled.
All right. Thank you so much, Professor Vito Buonsante. Thanks for your input, for your perspective on this. It's good to talk to you. We'll talk again.
Thank you. Same.